Hey guys, it's Shay from Skolgamingyt. Welcome to another MLB Perfect Inning video. This is for Perfect Inning 2018, but certainly the principles of this video should carry over to MLB Perfect Inning 2019. And what we have, if you can't tell by the title of this video, is the first of a 5-part series, Which Team Deck is Best. In this video, we'll go over the rankings of starting pitchers from 30 to 1. In episode 2, we'll go at bullpen rankings from 30 to 1. In episode 3, we'll go the top 4 batters ranked from 30 to 1. In episode 5, we'll go the top 9 batters, which would be your starting 9 in an American League ballpark, ranked from 30 to 1. And then in the last episode, we'll do a combination of those 4 to come up with our final rankings of all teams from 30 to 1. This series is inspired by the Shimp Plays, who did a rankings video of his own in terms of the different metrics I'm using to rank the teams to come up with my final conclusion. Link to his original video will be in the description, but at the same time, he just did a basic eyeball test. What I did, I came up with formulaic mathematical ways of evaluating each of these teams. For pitching, it will be the same for starters and relievers. I'm setting base ratings of 90 command, 90 break, 90 stuff, 75 velocity, and a 5-pitch pitch mix. If players have over 90 command, 90 break, and 90 stuff, for each point better, they'll get +1. So if they have 93 command, they would get +3 based on their command rating. It accumulates. If they're below 90, it's -1.5 points, though. So if they have 88 stuff and 93 command, they get +3 from command, but even though they're only down 2 in stuff, they get -3, so it breaks down to 0. The reason being, I think having decent base overall stats is more important than just a true combined total of stats when it comes to pitchers. At the same time, if a pitcher, let's say, had 105 command and 88 stuff, having 105 command should still be rewarded significantly more than 88 stuff being a little bit low. And just 90s, that seemed to be a pretty reasonable baseline if you look at the best versions of cards for most players. Velocity set at 75 for a similar reason. Now, the number of pitches, if you have more than 5 pitches for each extra pitch, you get +5. If you're missing pitches for each pitch you're missing, -5. Any pitchers that didn't have at least 3 pitches, no matter how good they were excluded, because nobody in their right mind in this game should have a pitcher with a 2-pitch mix. And then these rankings, they're not out of 100 or anything, but you get a total based on your 5 starters. Each pitcher has their own number put together for a combined total, and they are ranked relative from 30 to 1. We'll have similar rankings for the other attributes, and again, not out of any maximum or minimum, but rather they are ranked relative to each other. So now getting to the rankings, at number 30 is the Baltimore Orioles. 50.5 is the lowest score of any team in the rankings. They are colored brown. I have 7 different tiers, kind of similar to Shimp as well, but I did the tiers based on groups of scores, overalls, whatever you might want to call it. And Baltimore is one of 3 teams in the worst tier. Their best pitcher scored 27, which isn't bad, but their other 4 starters, none of them scored over 10, so they have one good starter who is Wei-Yin Chen. Their other starters are not good at all. At number 29 is the Miami Marlins, coming in at a 58. They have 3 starters who scored 19, 15, and 15, so they have a below average but decent first 3 starters. Their last 2 at 5 and 4, not very good, though. And then at number 28, we have the Toronto Blue Jays scoring at 66.5. They have a starter at 26 and a starter at 20. One of those I know is David Price. The other I think might have been Marcus Stroman, but don't quote me on that for sure. Then they had a 10.5 ranked starter, a 9 ranked starter, but their 5th starter only scored 1 point. As we move on to the gray tier, The second worst tier, you get a little bit better pitching. We have Atlanta, 74. They have a 32, a 20, and a 13 for their first 3 starters, but then a 1.5 and a 7.5 with their last 2 hurts a lot. The Philadelphia Phillies have a 34, a 21, and a 15, but then they have a 7, and they actually had to take a 0 on their 5th starter. 0 could have been negative, though. The rankings can go negative if pitchers are bad enough. So the Phillies, top-heavy on starters, they just don't have a good 4th and certainly not 5th starter. The San Diego Padres come in at number 25. All of their pitchers are 11 or above, but none of them are above 25, and 4 of them are below 20. Also tied, I guess, for number 24, number 25, so the Padres technically 24.5. We have the Chicago White Sox. They've got a 27, a 19, a 16, an 11.5, and then a 5. As we move on to the pink tier, this is slightly below average. Up first is the Texas Rangers. I believe they have a very, very good Yu Darvish card that scored a 44. Their other pitchers combined to only score 42.5. So one starter accounted for over half of their pitching value. Then at number 22, my own Minnesota Twins. Their worst starter scored an 11. Their third and fourth starters scored 18s. Their second starter scored a 21, but the Twins' best starter scored a 22, which is far from impressive for a number 1 starter. So the Twins, pretty consistent from 1 through 5, just not enough top-tier talent to score highly. Then at number 21, the Los Angeles Angels. They had a pitcher score at 33. I believe that might have been a world's best Jeff Weaver. Then there are other pitchers in the 12 to 19 range. Again, no truly bad pitchers for the Angels, but below average compared to other teams. And at 20th, the Arizona Diamondbacks. They have 3 pitchers 20 or above, but their last 2 pitchers at 9.5 and 10.5 held them back from being average or slightly above. At 19, and debatably could have been lumped in with this third tier, but the first team in the tier that's green, which is considered to be about the average, is the Kansas City Royals at a 95. Really, their 5th starters at 12.5, but their top 4 starters are all at least 17, and their number 1 starter is a 29. At number 18 is the Seattle Mariners. They have 2 incredibly good starters, Felix Hernandez and I'm pretty sure James Paxton, who are worth 45 and 35 out of their 98.5. Then they have a 17, they have a 2, and they actually have a negative 0.5 as their 5th starter, which basically means this pitcher either doesn't have enough pitches or doesn't have good enough stats. At number 17, the Detroit Tigers. They've got Justin Verlander. They have Max Scherzer. The thing is, the cards released in 2018 have the best stats, and there weren't any really good starters on the Tigers in 2018. So they have the best of the old cards, which are still decent. They're just not good enough to put the Tigers up where a truly good legacy team for someone like the Tigers might be expected to rank. At number 16, the Cincinnati Reds. They have 1 starter that's worth 42. I believe that is a world's best Johnny Cueto. Their other starters honestly would put them in either the pink or the gray tier. But again, 1 good starter makes their pitching staff appear to be average. At 16, the Oakland Athletics. They have 3 starters in the 20s. They have a 16 and they have 11.5. So they have good starters and maybe 1 more good starter than teams in the lower tiers. I guess their baseline just isn't as strong as some other teams. At 14, the St. Louis Cardinals. All of their pitchers are between 18 and 22 on the rankings. Very well-rounded. The difference between starter number 1 and starter number 5 might be specific pitches in the pitch mix, whether they favor command or stuff. Just hypothetically speaking, 5 good starters, no bad starters, but no great starters. Again, probably the most consistent pitching staff you'll see of any team here. At number 13, the San Francisco Giants. They are very top-heavy with world's best Johnny Cueto and world's best Madison Bumgarner. Then their 3 through 5 starters in the 13.5 to 18 range. A little bit below average, but still functional starters. At number 12, the New York Yankees. They have a great Masahiro Tanaka worth 42.5 points. They've got 3 other starters worth 20, 19.5, and 19 points. What keeps them from being in a higher tier is their 5th starter only being worth 3. At number 11, the Milwaukee Brewers. They have a lot of good live SC cards from this year, ranking at 33, 26.5, 20, and again, the 1 and 2 stars 33 and 26.5. Carry them their last 2 stars at 14.5 and 11.5. Not great, but it puts them at 11. Now we move to the top 10. We have the above average tier, starting with the Washington Nationals at 108. They've got a pitcher with 45. I think it might be Strasburg, or maybe it's Max Scherzer, and whichever one isn't worth 45 is worth 29.5. They lack the back end depth with a 10.5 and a 5 on the back end, but a very strong 1-2 punch with functional 3rd and 4th starters and at least an above replacement 5th starter puts them at 10. At number 9, the Pittsburgh Pirates. They have a starter at 32, at 24, at 23, at 19, and at 11.5. Pretty solid rotation overall. No standouts, but again, consistently above average. And at number 8, the Chicago Cubs. They have an insane-looking Cole Hamels card that scored at a 38. They have a great Jake Arrieta card at 34.5. And then they've got pitchers at 16.5, 14, and 10. If those pitchers were higher, they would be amongst the elite of the elite for starting pitchers. John Lester certainly in that mix. But his Cubs cards lack in velocity a bit and lack in the pitch mix that would make him be a 3rd elite starter. Now we move up to the 2nd tier. These are elite pitching staffs. There's only one team in the top tier, so these teams are basically the best starting pitching staffs that are not just insanely the best. We've got the Colorado Rockies at number 7. They've got starters worth 36, 28, 27, and 25. Their 5th starter worth 16 is holding them back a bit. If that 16 was, let's say, a 21, the Rockies would be all the way up to number 5. Very strong, rounded pitching staff in Colorado. The Boston Red Sox at number 6. They've got 2 excellent starters at 41 and 36. And then they've got 3 functional starters at 22.5, 19.5, and 16. At number 5, the Cleveland Indians. They've got a 40, a 39, and a 30. If their 4th and 5th starters were not a 13.5 and a 13, once again, that team would be rather stacked. At number 4, the Tampa Bay Rays. They have a 44, and they have a 35, they have a 23, and then they have a pair of 18s. At number 3, the Los Angeles Dodgers. Now, teams like the Dodgers and Red Sox who have insanely expensive cards, I set a price limit of $2 billion GP for cards eligible for these rankings, which really didn't eliminate too many cards, but it was just in the interest of making these teams reflect something that would be relatively affordable. The price of $2 billion was settled on 2 because I figured, okay, for most teams, most cards won't be too expensive. And for 1 or 2 expensive cards to get to have a really good overall team, I could see somebody wanting to save up to $2 billion GP and getting that reasonably in a week or less. That being said, the Dodgers' worst starter is a 23, best starter is a 35. With the price cap, no truly elite pitcher, but they have excellent starters. They have Kershaw, they have really nice Walker Buehler cards. Hyunjin Ryu really is not that bad looking, and his world's best card I don't believe was even a factor in the rankings. They have Zach Greinke. I mean, they have a wonderful wealth of options. At number 2, the Houston Astros. Couple of 35s, a 32, a 27. Their 5th starter being at a 12 is the only bad mark on this team. They've got a great Dallas Keuchel card. They've got great Verlander cards, great Garrett Cole cards. I mean, they're really a great team starting pitching-wise. And then number one, the only Tier 1 team, because they are head and shoulders above every other team out there for a starting pitching staff. It is none other than the New York Mets. They have Jacob deGrom. They have Noah Syndergaard. They have Zach Wheeler. They have Matt Harvey. And they have Steven Matz. Their top four starters, 44, 40, 35, and 33. Their fifth starter comes in at 19. I mean, really, you have a 1 out of 5 chance of getting a bad start. Yeah, so 4 out of the 5 Mets starters are better than the best starter on 14 out of the other 29 teams in the game. So that's why they're Tier 1. A bunch of other good teams fall in Tier 2, then Tier 3, Tier 4, Tier 5, Tier 6, Tier 7. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, kind of seeing how I rank these starters. Let me know in the comments, the Premier Chat, however you're watching this video, if you agree with these rankings or if you disagree. Either way, I'm open to feedback. Again, my methodology I'll put on the screen as I outro. I found that it honestly represented pitchers pretty well. By which I mean, players with 30 or 40 rankings are pitchers that I would definitely want to buy. Pitchers in the 20s, some I would want, some I wouldn't want. Pitchers below that, honestly, if I wasn't building a strict team deck for a specific team, I probably wouldn't necessarily want them. Not to say that they're absolutely horrible, just a personal preference. But yeah, that being said, that is going to do it for this video, guys. Part 2 will be out a week from today, Saturday. So today's Saturday, January 19th. A week from today will be Saturday, January 26th for rankings of every team's bullpen options. That is going to do it for this video for real now, though, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. Until next time, and as always, peace out.